Thanks everybody for joining us for episode 17 of Dumb and Drummer. My guest today is Damani from Drumtrax. How you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. Hanging in there. Thanks for having
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being on. So let's kick it right off. For those of the listeners and viewers that don't know, who are you and why are you awesome?
me. um, Man, I'm Damani. I'm a musician first. It's what started playing music a long time ago, and I guess one of the things that I've contributed to the music world that some would consider awesome is the drumless play along tracks and the drum lessons and everything that we provide on the Drumtrax app, which in a nutshell is basically our way of trying to help drummers find their own creativity, explore their own creativity, and find their own voice on the drums. And we do that with our drumless play along tracks and our library of lessons and courses, as well as our private Facebook group now.
That's awesome, dude. And how long have you been creating these tracks? Like what
Uh,
when was the first Drumtrax play along released?
so it actually goes back before Drumtrax. I started off making play along tracks because I wanted some music to play to for myself. And when I started playing keyboards, I had a Casio WK1630. It was just this cheap keyboard that my dad bought me because I told him I was interested in the keyboard. And so what ended up happening is I would make songs that had 6 tracks on this keyboard, and I would like make something up. And after I would make it up, I would play to it because the Casio had speakers, but the speakers weren't loud enough, so I'd hook it up to a speaker and play along to the stuff that I was playing to. And then, some of my friends got a hold of some of the stuff that I was making, where they would come over and they'd be like, "Oh, you're playing this stuff," and like, "Oh, they thought it was kind of cool." And it kind of started off as that, like really just trying to scratch my own itch back in the day. But then, when the internet came along, YouTube came along, I started making. I figured like, man, maybe I can do this, and it'd be valuable to other drummers in the world because the drummers play on tracks that I found that were out at the time were not very fun to play to. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And so, one of the first things that I did was I approached Mike Johnston because we actually are from the same city.
Okay.
And so, and I have a good friend, actually, Sticks, who used to work at the Drum Lab as a drum instructor. The Drum Lab is a drum school that Mike Johnson started here in Sacramento
Okay.
before all of the online situation. And so when Mike was doing his online thing, he was starting to do well, and I presented it to him like, hey, like I see that you're teaching lessons and all this. It's amazing. I see other people starting to teach lessons, but nobody's using actual music to apply what you just taught to an actual musical situation. And I
Right.
feel like that could be a great addition for drummers who are learning. And so the first time I released a play along track was actually on uh, when I released one publicly was on Mike Johnston's website.
Oh,
And
nice.
we did that for a short time, and then I started my own website and started trying to grow things from then. And that's why, like, you'll hear us refer to the DERPA days or the DRPA days, the Damani
Mhm.
Rhodes Play Along days, where that's what it was called at first, Damani Rhodes Play Alongs. And we started a YouTube channel and was trying to put them out into the world that way.
Mhm. Do you still work with Mike Johnson?
No. That was short, a short period of time where when I was first, trying to get this thing off the ground. And yeah, Mike is to the stars at this point. Like,
Yeah, he definitely took off, but yeah, it's cool to hear how the inception of everything started, the motivation, and you gotta start somewhere, right? I mean,
definitely.
and you said that's Samadhi, right?
Yeah,
Um,
drum coach Somadi, aka Quit the Drums. That's his name on Instagram right now. At least he changes his name, and he's a character because when we play like gigs out in the real world and we're playing shows and stuff,
mhm.
you don't ever know what his name's going to be that day.
Ah!
When you introduce the drummer, he might want to be introduced as Clark Kent, Peter Parker, Batman. I don't know who he wants to be. But
Nice.
yeah, we're talking about drum coach somebody. Back in the day, we called him Sticks. A lot of people on the internet still know him as Sticks. But yeah, drum coach somebody, aka Quit the Drums.
Got it. Now, in the last year or so, you have posted a lot of drum tips on your Instagram channel, which I
Yeah,
thought were really great because they're little like snippets of like, hey, play ghost notes with your fingers, in between the cross stick, and omit one of the snare drums and just play on beat 4 instead of beat 2, stuff like that. So how did that? Was that just like a plan to try to get more engagement, or what was the
Well,
story there?
yeah, I mean, everything you do on social media is about trying to get more engagement, right? But
Mm.
at the end, but at the end of the day, trying to offer value and our perspective, our way of thinking, our approach about how to get better at the drums, and it's not just about taking or trying to learn a bunch of new things, which is great. You should try to learn as many new things as you can,
Mm.
based on whatever your goals are. However, at the end of the day, we want you to be able to find your own voice and explore your own creativity. And that is a huge pillar for us. It's creativity, finding who you are. And it does, you don't have to be an advanced drummer to do that. You can start finding your voice with whatever it is you know. So if you're a beginner and you have basic, grooves down and you can play some basic drum fills, one of the ways to get to the next level is to start experimenting with what you already know.
Yeah.
You can just take with what you already know and just explore and do some crazy things with it. Just stumble on the stuff that you didn't know or didn't think of, because usually people are looking for hard and fast rules and what's the right way to do things and how do I know that I'm doing it exactly perfect. And I get that, especially when you're starting out, you don't know what's what and how do you know if you're doing it right and all those things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's why we coming along just to try to spark some type of creativity, and that's what that was about. To say, hey, I know you play a basic groove like this. What if you don't put the snare on 2 and 4? What if you put the snare here and see how it changes everything? Because you can play ghost notes like this. What if you use your fingers and it sounds like this?
Yeah.
A drum coach Somadi was the one who was putting those out, or I was recording those and we were putting those out. He's my business partner as well. We're in this together. So when we came up with these ideas, I was like, yo, we should come up with these small tips. Because back in the day when we started, we always felt like, we had to teach some crazy 30-second note, 16-note drum fill, or 2-measure 16-note or 30-second note drum fill, because it looks cool and it gets views and people are interested in that kind of thing. And that's good. That also sparks creativity too. I'm not saying that that's bad. But at the same time, there's some like, yo, we could really focus on really trying to help the beginners and the intermediates get to that next level by showing them these small kind of tips that are really easy to implement. You look at it and be like, oh, I can play that. I just didn't think to play that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I love the approach of you already know the language, you know the words and the phrases and the grammar and everything like that. Let's just take all the language that you know.
Yeah.
It's English. Let's just, play around with different phrases and put in different sentences with different punctuation and things like that. It's actually Jerron Garnett that actually told me, was one of the first people to tell me that.
Yeah.
Show me a chop that you already know.
Right.
And then we spent the next hour just picking it apart and making it different. And it was great. I mean, it was some of the best online lessons I've had just because he met me where I was. I didn't have to
period. Instead of trying to tell you that you need to be way over here now, it's like, yo, take what you have and turn it around and flip it 7 different ways. And I feel like, I've seen that in my life, period, just growing up the way that I've grown up. Grow up, you don't have much. You look in the refrigerator and you be like, man, there's nothing to eat. But your mom or your pops look in the refrigerator and be like, okay, there's not a lot here, but I bet you I can make 5 or 6 different things out of this.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You end up having great meals because you just got creative. And that's the thing that, because like I see it a lot on the internet. As long as we've been on the internet, everybody's posting, and it's always these hard and fast rules. And I get it; they make sense with context, right? Like if you're saying, "Oh, less is more," just play groove, just play the pocket. That makes a ton of sense in a specific context. But what we're trying to do is to not just create robots of people who sound the same. Trying to create and help develop people who can be creative and free, because this is music, and music is art, and art is subjective, and we're all out here being artists, but we're just trying to add that type of balance, I guess, to everything. Because I'm not saying that the other side of it, like with the discipline and understanding what needs to be done in certain situations, especially like if you're hired on a gig. I get that, because it's literally a job, no different than any other job that has a job description and you're getting hired to do a specific thing. But then there is the creative side and the people who actually make music, right?
Yeah.
Like all musicians are not just musicians to play what other people wrote only.
Yeah.
Like There's creative. Somebody has to create the stuff that everybody's playing. Somebody has to create the parts. And so to me, it's really important that every drummer taps into that creative side, because you're a human being. You are not a machine.
Right.
And even if that's what your goal is to try to sound close to a machine, there's creative ways to do that, because a human programmed the machine, and the human was being creative when the machine was programmed. So at the end of the day, it boils down to the same thing to me: finding your own voice and exploring your own creativity, because music is about freedom.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I love the approach of the business as well, because you're supporting people in doing that better. Because you're giving them lessons and stuff, but the core is like, here's a track, interpret the track however you want. And I know that Nick Baglio has used your tracks quite a bit. I've used your tracks quite a bit. I've seen Eric Moore pop up on your
that's good, homie. I know Eric for a long time.
Who else is using your tracks? Who do you feel like is using your tracks the most right now?
Over the years, man, it's been so many people. I've had a track. I made specific tracks for Juan Carlos when he did Mino Festival.
Nice.
That was an exclusive track originally for him that is now on the app. I have had Brian Fraser Moore played at the tracks left and right, and like literally a host of thousands of drummers around the world literally playing the tracks, and they tag us in the Instagram stories, and we can't repost everyone all the time. But if like, I honestly could repost a drummer playing to the tracks on our Instagram page like every day.
That's
because they're playing to it all around the world. Whether I see them or somebody is playing to it and they don't tag us, but somebody who knows us tags us in, post, for them, or whatever the case is. People are playing to the tracks, man, and it's a lot of people. It's been so many people. I can't mention like everybody, but as far as the famous people that have played to the tracks, Mike Johnson's played to the tracks in the early days. You got Eric Moore's played to the tracks. We got Brian Fraser Moore, like I said before, has played to the track. There's a bunch more. It's just so many. I stopped keeping track.
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm putting you on the spot, but it is awesome to see the promotion. See it on other people's pages randomly, and to hear their interpretation of, like they may be hearing the song different. And they may be hearing, even though I can hear you counting off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on to kick off the song. Then you can hear it, but then you can just mess with it too. I mean, you could just take you can make it into a 4/4 or something, and you can hear it a certain way, which is actually kind of tight.
Right, and a lot of the tracks come with click and without click, right? So when they're streaming them on the app, you may be counted off. And I stopped doing that also on some of the tracks, right? And just let the click do it.
Yeah.
And because I just, I like to see how people interpret it. And
exactly.
And the truth is, I make like all of the tracks that are on the app. There's only like one set of tracks on the app that I didn't make because we connected with my boy Jobo Baggins, and he plays in I know Joseph.
Joseph Wesley Arrington from
Rhodes.
So you have all the Royal Coda songs. What's that?
Yeah, all that stuff is on the app, right? He gave us a Royal Coda project on the app. I have like I think I have a CN joint in the wings that I haven't put on the app yet.
Are you serious?
I think I have to check the hard drive, and I'll hit up Joe too.
Nice.
But because I make all the music on the app, but like I'm not a rock musician like that, and so I have looked to Joe. I'm like, yo, you guys have a band, you guys are, you have actual records. It'd be great, to have these songs that drummers can play along to. They can reinterpret you guys' music, which is a direction that I'm kind of going in the future here in the next year. We're looking to try to be able to outsource the making of the tracks, some of them, because right now I make all of them, and all of the tracks on the app are we release a brand new one every single week. So every single week I'm pumping out a new one, and
that's crazy.
But as we grow, I'm gonna need some help. So I'm gonna be looking and trying to figure out a way that we can help other creators as well who make tracks to be able to get some type of money, from having tracks on the app, and
or to be able to have a platform to be able to
adding to the musician economy, right? Like being able to help other musicians as well. So,
well, I mean, the play along tracks are hot, man. I get, I'm saying I get like it's my group, it's not my groups, but the big drumming groups on Facebook, people routinely ask, what are good tracks to play along to.
Yeah.
And I either throw your name in there or I throw Timbo from Kino's name in there as well because there's depending on what you want. You know, I mean, there's
Right.
all these different flavors. And I
Absolutely.
know there's a lot of apps that are doing the play alongs as well that and not to throw them under the bus or anything like that, but not everyone's different. You know, I mean, it's just like an app that a metronome app. You
Right.
know, oh, I love Polynome, but I don't have Apple, so I have to choose from all these other. You just don't like
Right.
the feel of it. You don't like the interface. You don't like it's missing features, things like that. So it's good to have a variety of the
Yeah.
different loops to play to.
Yeah. And so, and that's a big part of why I want to diversify who all is making the tracks on the app because it's just me. And it'd be great to get other people's sound and other people's vibe and other people's flavors and be able to present that to the drummers so they have even more. Because we have over 200 drummers play along tracks on the app, and but if it's all me, like it's cool, but I want to have more people being able to add and contribute to the sound. And I think the drummers who play to the tracks and who download the app will benefit, from it greatly. So it's about providing value all the way around, right? Value
Yeah.
to the drummers, value to the musician who's creating. We can, help them financially in the whole nine. So, and we're also doing that with the drum courses as well. That's one of the things we are definitely looking into is looking instead of us creating all the courses, which we do right now, create all the courses uh, to outsourcing to other drummers as well to really get more perspective uh, as we get, but still from the same lens of our focus, which is to help drummers find their own voice and explore their own creativity. We don't negate the basic facts or the basic skills that you must learn, but
Yeah.
we also try to show you how to use those to create your, you find your own voice and explore your creativity. That's the vibe.
It's the sustainable way, man. It's
Yeah.
that we don't want to cram anything down your throat. We don't want to just regurgitate something somebody else is doing. We want you to be creative and unique, and that's part. I'm 100% agreeing with you. So
Yeah.
I want to change gears just a little bit and talk about representation. That's come up a few times in past podcasts, and I think it's important to have a dialogue about it. As a black musician,
Mhm.
what do you think is the biggest like hurdle in the music community as far as like representation goes?
It's as far as just being a musician, I see a lot of black musicians, right? Like we play. That's what we do. Matter of fact, when I grew up playing in church, and I was only around black musicians. So I mean, to me, it's a lot of us. I like intentionally decided not to try to go out to like LA and to try to get a gig and tour with big artists because I know people who have done that and they've done it successfully. But I've also seen the lifestyle that comes with that in terms of like how it's not always what you see on Instagram. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
That it may look like you're on the road and you're traveling and you are for 3 months and then it's not the same. So my experience would be on the online world because that's the path that I decided to take, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the online world, I can honestly say that I do not see, and we never saw, a lot of black drummers or starting these types of businesses online or even trying to build a following in this space. In my mind, I always believed that I could, which is why I decided to do it. But there was one other black organization, and we were actually cool with them. We really liked them back in the day, and they were called Flight Drummers. I don't know if anybody remembers them, but that was 2012, 2013, and they were actually gaining some traction. Their team, they had more. I would even say that at the time, their team even had more of a business sense than I would say we had. We were just making videos, but they were actually doing business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they ended was a little sketchy to me, man. I never really felt right about how that whole thing went down and how it ended for them, but that was a whole controversial situation. But it seems like as time is going on, I'm starting to see more black creators, more, whether it's in even with Carlin McCuller and Shed Tracks or whatever the case,
Yeah.
and other people like that. There's a guy named Alan Merville, I believe is his last name, and he has his thing where he's doing courses with different instruments and things of that nature. And I love to see it. I'm not against it at all. It's been a while. It's taken a while for us to get on and start doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, my experience has just been that in the online world, which is what I can speak to, is that it hasn't been a lot of us. And in the beginning, you know, we would see comments that would get a lot of pushback, which you know, you can look at it and say, okay, you could tell like some of the comments that you would get would be coded, but there were certain trigger words that would always be used. The term gospel chops or the term, you know, gospel anything became very derogatory for a period of time.
Really?
So much, yeah. Oh my God, people, so much so that the drummers who were a part of Gospel Chops wanted to be disassociated from it because it was just a derogatory term. It was just looked at in a negative light for a while. And even when you went to NAMM, it was just, I don't know, we saw it. And so I remember when me and Drum Coach Somebody did the Modern Drummer, we did a Modern Drummer article when they were, and somebody in our private Facebook group literally posted it the other day, and it was crazy to go back and look at it. But anyway,
yeah.
When we did the video, it was a good video. In Modern Drummer, of course, they posted it on their website, they posted it on their Facebook page, and some of the comments that we saw, there was good comments and positive comments, but some of the comments were, people were furious that Modern Drummer allowed this filth on their page.
What the fuck?
I promise you, if you go back to the comment, I mean, this was like some years ago, but if you go, it had to be like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe now. But if you go to the post, if it's still up on their Facebook page, this is on their Facebook page. The comments, some of the comments got kind of wild.
And just like overt racism.
You know, it's hard to because most people are not overt. It's like they don't say anything direct. They're not going to call you the N-word. They're not going to say, you know, these specific things. But to me, man, I always took that with a grain of salt. I always just let it never bothered me. I never let it never sunk in. I didn't feel anything about it. I felt bad for them, but I didn't feel any type of, I didn't internalize it. It didn't stop me. There's just way harder things that I've experienced in my life than to see that and it mean anything to me. Like literally it meant nothing to me. But I know that it exists and we saw it happen, but I just never let it be an excuse for me. You understand what I'm saying? But not saying that it doesn't exist and that it's not real. But I do think that at the same time, the internet has come a long way, and there's nothing in the way of any Black creator that wants to put themselves out there and do some things with quality and be as professional as anyone else. We're just as capable as everyone else. We provide as much value. Our perspective is extremely unique because if you really think about it, if you look at any of the musicians or any of the top artists you see on the road, you see us playing with them all of the time.
Yeah.
You know, and you see us, and when you see us, the majority of us come from church too, and come from playing in church, and that's where we got our start, and we got our practice, and we got groomed. And people would ask me sometimes, why do you think? Why is it? What is this with all of these church drummers and these church musicians who are like stadium ready at 18 years old?
Yeah.
And I say all the time, it's really simple. It's because these guys have been playing music with people who are older than them, people who are more seasoned than them, who are professional musicians. They've been playing shows, church services, and if you are at a church that is really rocking, it's a whole thing. You're playing shows, or you're being trained in learning, remembering, and performing songs every week of your life from the time you are 10, 12, 13, or even some guys are really good enough when they're 8, 9, you know, especially now, these musicians are getting better at such a young age. But you're doing that every single week for your entire life.
Yeah.
By the time you're 18, you've been performing for the last 10, 12 years. Some of these guys who get on when they're 18, 19, 20, they've been ready. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
if you go back to like the first gospel chops and all of the Northern California guys that Gerald Forrest, who started gospel chops, that he was interviewing, like these guys been good.
Yeah.
Eric's been good. I met Eric Moore when I was like 15 years old because he's from Stockton and I'm from Sacramento, and we were just at a church, and I was like, oh, this exists, right?
Yeah.
And he was killing back then, and I thought I was good, and I wasn't terrible. I was decent, but when I saw him, it was just oh, okay.
You checked your ego, yeah.
Not even, yeah. It was just like I didn't even know that existed, right?
I remember he did a video on something called a beat called a cha-cha.
Okay.
And he said some churches you play in, you're only gonna have, you know, a snare, kick, hi-hat. It's gonna be a small kit. It's gonna, you know, and he just busts out like this. He calls it the cha-cha, but it's this with the 3-piece, and he just, it was smoking, man. It was.
When you grow up playing in church, man, and you go to another church to play because the choir that you're playing for is at a different church, get invited to a musical or some type of program, whether it's a revival or the convention or whatever, you show up and you play whatever's there.
Yeah.
And that's why people ask me, people to this day, they be like, what's your favorite stick? I'd be like, bro, whichever one is in my hands.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like, no, you got a snare, it didn't matter what snare it was. You got to tune it and make it sound good.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the times were, you got to make the best use out of it. We like stacks, like cymbal stacks now, that's been happening forever. Like forever.
Because the cymbals are terrible.
Like, oh, this is broken. What are we gonna do with it? Throw it away? No, we don't throw anything away. We're gonna repurpose it. We're gonna be creative because that's what we do. And so I feel like those of us who have this unique experience growing up and the perspective that we carry can really provide a lot of insight into what it is, instead, because everything is not just super formulaic. And it can be, it makes it easy for those who are learning to be like, yeah, 6 notes here, 4 notes here, 6 notes. And now you have, you know, like all of that is cool and it works. However, there's a way that you can unlock your creativity and really dive into a whole nother aspect of yourself and finding you instead of just being, because at the end of the day, I can teach you every drum fill I know how to play. I can teach you every lick or whatever the case is, but at the end of the day, who are you, right? Even if you can play it note for note, but who are you? And so that's kind of, and it was a thing like out here in where we're from, the top drummers in my area was like, you had Eric Moore, you had Spider, and these are guys that we still look up to. And people be like, yo, who is your top, you know, your favorite drummers? And I'll be like, yo, Stefan DeBose, you know, Eric Moore, Larry Animal Belton. You know, these guys were around and they were good, and they are still really good, right? And so at the end of the day, we would see them and we would get inspired and come up with renditions or versions of what they were doing, or try to take what we were doing and try to add to it to make it a thing. But you can't just sound exactly like this person. You want it to have your own distinct.
Yeah, you don't want to be just another copy.
You want to know it's you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but to answer your question again about the representation, man, I think that that is changing right now with the creators on the internet, because that's my experience. It's changing. There's more Black entrepreneurs in this space that are starting to come around, and we plan on, you know, doing courses with some more drummers, of course, Black drummers, because there's a lot of them that are phenomenal, and other races as well.
Yeah.
But, we plan on contributing to seeing more of that get around.
That's awesome, and I just want to say, you know, I appreciate your hustle, but also you bringing in other races, as you said too, because I mean, somebody's always watching. Like, I think that's something we talked about on a different episode. But like, you never know, because they don't like leave a like or a comment or whatever, but they've been watching this stuff, and if they are a BIPOC artist and they're thinking, hey, I don't know if I want to follow through with this. I don't know if I want to pull the trigger. You're actually out there. You're pulling the trigger. You're making the content. So you're helping those people be motivated to pull the trigger on their own stuff, which is amazing.
I appreciate that.
For sure. So what is the next step for the app this year, and what other projects do you have going on? Like, what's the rest of the 2021 looking like?
So the rest of 2021, right now we're in the middle of a whole new app overhaul. We're like rebuilding the app. and we are also building a website version of the application. Got a
Nice.
request where people are like, "Hey, I want to be able to do this on my desktop. Hey, I want to be able to use my laptop." They
Mhm.
want just a larger screen, and I'm like, "Well, you could, with your phone, mirror it to your TV and cast it to whatever." But I get it, and so we've received enough requests where it's like, "Hey, we're here to serve." So
Yeah.
we're gonna put that together, and that's in the process. We're hoping that will be done in the next 3 weeks, and then that'll go out. And with that, we're also going to, because right now on the app, drummers can just stream the tracks unless you're a paid subscriber to Drumtrax Premium, where you get access to like all of the premium content and all of the in-app features and in the private Facebook group, which is great because we go live every week in the private Facebook group.
Mhm.
Live drum lessons, live Q&As, student reviews. We put together practice routines for drummers, the whole nine. But for those who are in the Drumtrax Premium or who are not in the Drumtrax Premium, we're going to open up downloads for those drummers as well. Like if you want to purchase a pack of drummers play along tracks and download them, we're going to have that open. We're going to also sell individual courses in case, hey, you don't want to subscribe for $24.99 a month. That's fine. You can get the course that you like and download that and also have it online access as well. And so we're putting all of that together so that people can purchase courses and tracks a la carte, as well as, join premium to get everything, online, for a decent price. And so that's the immediate next step. And then, of course, after that is expanding more courses. So we're in the middle of networking and communicating with other drummers who we plan to have come and do courses on the app, and putting that together. That's really what's next.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
Continue to serve the purpose, and eventually, I don't know if we're gonna do it. I don't think we're gonna do it this year, but I would love to. And I'm putting this out in the world right now, out of my mind. I've been thinking about it. Maybe
Mhm.
2020. Definitely gonna try to have a NAM group and
Nice.
go that route.
Spread
See,
the word a little bit more about that. Yeah, if NAM, I would assume NAM is happening this year, right?
I think I would assume it's happening in 2022.
Oh, did it already happen this year? But they did it like online. It was like an online version or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know because I didn't participate in NAM if this January if they did anything. I don't know if they did a summer NAM because they do summer NAM every year as well.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even. I'm not even in the loop on that. But I mean, like, I do want to go to NAM at some point.
You ever
Uh,
been?
no, never been.
Oh, okay, yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good. Good experience.
I'm in Austin, so and before that I lived in Iowa, so it wasn't like I could just like
Right, right,
hop in
right.
the car and check it out or whatnot. So
No, no, no. I mean, I'm 6-7 hours away from there myself, but on drive. But I've gone. But I'll tell you this: it's a nice experience, but the hotels are extremely expensive around that time.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
for sure.
it's relatively expensive anyway because it's across the street from Disneyland. But especially when the convention comes in, Motel 6 is going to run you $300 a night. So
Okay.
it just is what it is.
Yeah,
But
yeah. You got to stay wherever you can.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, yeah, hopefully you have some friends in the area.
yeah, yeah. I do have some friends in California. I just don't know how
How
long or
close?
logistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I might have to hop in the car for a little bit. So as far as I mean, you have bands too. Let's talk about that. So I mean, you have some gigging bands. What are you guys playing shows again?
So my band Mino Yansi, which literally translates from two different African languages to musical freedom. That's the literal definition of the band's name. No, we haven't started playing any shows yet. We know shows are starting to open back up. I've been working on a few projects outside of Mino Yansi as well. Like we have an EP out. We also have another EP recorded that's not released yet that we will be releasing. But I have released my own project as well that I recorded at the Kennedy Center in Washington D.C. last
You
year.
post some clips on. I think I saw some clips on your page on that.
Yeah, yeah. So they flew me and drum coach Somadi. We do a lot of music together. So
Yeah.
they flew us to Washington D.C. to be a part of this program at the Reach. There's a new building right. It's connected to the Kennedy Center called the Reach,
Mm.
and they were having this music residency for artists, and we got called to be a part of it. And so they flew us there, and they gave us a room. Uh, we asked for a drum kit, and that was it. We asked for a drum kit. I brought my controller and my laptop, and we set up a studio in that room. There was nothing else in the room. It wasn't like a real studio. It was just
They had the grand piano in there, right?
that's when we didn't know that there was a grand piano that was going to be one when we got there
Oh wow.
in the corner, and I was like, we got to mic this up. And so
Mm-hmm.
they mic'd up the piano, and yeah, we just made music for 5 days. That was it.
That's amazing.
That was it, and it turned into a project. And I made a documentary, you know, and by filming behind the scenes and you know the whole nine, and put it out. And so like that went out in November of last year, and the drumless versions of that are on the app as well.
Can people see the documentary on like your YouTube channel, or where can
It's
they?
actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna put it on the Drumtrax YouTube channel because right now it's on it's on just on my personal Facebook page.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you should post the or send me the link, and I'll post it in the description so people can check it out because it was really dope. Like just the energy, because I mean you're in a different town, you're in a different
Yeah,
studio, you know, you're in a different environment, so the creative juices are flowing a little,
yeah.
you're hitting a little differently, and
It's
all
just,
good
it's just,
things.
it's just what we do. I also have a project that's going to be coming this year with a poet named Tongo Eisen Martin. He's out of San Francisco, and he's the poet laureate in San Francisco, and his poetry is ridiculous. And we met at a at the YBCA 100. Me and drum coach somebody were selected. Our band, basically, me and Yancy, was selected for the YBCA 100, which is in San Francisco, which is the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. And when one of the things that we had to do at the celebration of this or whatever, they had performances, and we had to perform with other artists who had been selected with literally no rehearsal. They did it intentionally. It was like no rehearsal. Nobody is gonna see each other, hear each other's stuff until the day before when we have sound check. So we
Gotcha.
had sound check and had to do, and we
Wow.
did the thing with Tongo. Tongo went up. He said, "Y'all just play something." And so we played something, and he started doing his poetry. And I told that week we were in a studio in Oakland for like a week. But I told Tongo right after, he was like, "Man, that was dope." I said, "Yo, we're in a studio right across the bridge, man. Stop by the studio." So we went to the studio that night. Tongo didn't come with us that night, but we went to the studio that night. We made a bunch of different ideas that we thought Tongo would be dope for him to spit his poetry over.
Yeah.
Well, the later that week he came, but we had a show in Oakland, so we were performing in Oakland, and he got to the studio while we were still at the show. And
Oh
so when we
no.
left the show, we went to the studio to meet him, and by the time we got there, he was already done. He had already spit over like 5 different tracks that he made.
Oh, that you had already recorded. Oh, so you
Yeah, we
get to
did.
do
So
it
we
with them live.
we went to the studio and made stuff specifically for him to
Oh, sick. Okay.
that night. And then he came like 2 days later and did his thing. And then when we got there, we was like, yo. So then I took the production home and finished it and did everything, added all the rest of the music to it. And we have a project coming out with him this year as well. And so I've also been releasing music. I've released another like 10, 12 songs already this year that I've just been putting out as ideas. Because I create a lot. I'm in this creative space. Creativity is just like, I don't know, that's one of my, I guess, values in life.
Yeah.
So I'm always creating. So I have written like, I don't know, 10 other songs that I've been releasing to my text message community. For myself personally as an artist, I'm starting to like build that community outside of just the Drumtrax app. But the thing that's always cool for the Drumtrax app is whatever I make, I might as well put the drumless version of it on the app. And so that's kind of how that's been going. So that's what I've been up to musically outside of the app. And I've also done last year, especially because everything was shut down. I was doing film scoring. I was doing there's a documentary that I scored that won a regional Emmy in
Nice.
California, and so like I've been just trying to stay creative with that. But I do plan on playing shows and getting back to that this year for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. And then just one more question here, and this is kind of off the script here, but I'm curious because I see a lot of different gear behind you, a lot of different gear being used. If you had to choose just two things, you can't choose like a drum set as one of the things. It has to be individual items as a drummer. What can't you live without?
I mean, so you're saying literally if I didn't have any instruments and I only had two to make stuff with.
No, I mean like if you're going to a gig
Uh-huh.
and they're like, listen, it's gonna be tight. It's we're super low on space or something like that. You can't bring your own stuff. Maybe there's a backline kit or something like that. But you're gonna bring two things for sure to that gig.
Oh, that I would bring to that gig. For some reason, man, there's something special about a really good ride cymbal.
Right.
There's something special about a really good ride. And I would say snare.
What snare and what rod?
So the ride cymbal that's behind us for the music that we've been playing, this joint right here.
Is that a 24 Special K or Special K drive? Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah.
Magic. For the music that we're playing. Say that again.
That?
I said it's magic for the music that we're playing.
Oh yeah, I mean it's magic anyway. I mean it's like I've always liked dry ride cymbals, but I mean that I've had an eye on for a while. If I ever use Zildjian, it would be that or the K Constantinople.
That cymbal is ridiculous too.
The 22 low is amazing.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, man? Like my whole life, Zildjian has always been my favorite cymbal. It just is what it is. Zildjian has always been my favorite cymbals.
Yeah.
Then people went through the Mino craze, and Mino came out, and Mino makes some amazing cymbals. But there's just something about, especially for the music that we play, these Zildjians, that extra dry with the rivets in it, magic.
Yeah.
Even the hacks that we've been playing are like ridiculous, and I like them a lot. But as far as the snare, I don't really have like a huge snare preference, but I do like big snares. I do like, the 14x8, 14x6, like the thick joints, and that's me.
You mean the 8x14?
Yeah.
Like the deeper snares, because I know I think the snare that I see on your videos is like a DW acrylic.
You see that, but you also see the black snare. Like there's a lot of snares in here.
I can see the rack of snares behind you for sure.
Yeah, and I think you only see half of it. But
yeah.
Because there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 snares, 18 if you count that one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
those are all Drum Coach Somali. Well, the majority of them are Drum Coach Somali snares. He's the one with all the kits.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm like I have a free floating chassis that I just put a copper and brass shell into.
Got you.
And that's good for me. Either I want warm and low and a different color, or I want bright and cutting and loud.
Yeah.
I have those two textures, but I do find it, and not to knock you or him, Samadhi or anything like that, but having that many snares, I mean, you're gonna have some that just sit there and they don't get used.
Oh, bro, that's all these snares do.
Yeah, they're just background.
This is great for the videos. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Uplight on it, and that's what that is. All those snares don't get used hardly ever. There's like you'll see the acrylic come out. There's the DW acrylic up there. There's a thick one. He has a thinner one. Mm-hmm. The kit that's on the snare right now looks like the DW aluminum snare.
Okay.
We also have the kit that Drum Coach Somadi is always after when it comes to me is my red Yamaha, because nobody has seen it. I have this online. We haven't done any videos with it, but I have this old school rock kit. It's a 22-inch kick drum, but it's short. It's not like long. It's kind of short. Snare, and then it comes with the toms are this 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 18. And right, weird measurements, but
I've never heard of a 15-inch tom before.
Bro, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 18. And it's an 80s rock kit. I bought it, like my dad bought it for me when I was like 15.
Sick.
I was just looking in the newspaper, in the classified ads for a new drum kit, because the drums that I had were from Sam's Club, and they were like a $100 kit that I beat up.
The First Act special?
Yeah, I don't even think it was called First Act back then, but it was, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say it wasn't that good. there was another drum
it was a super, super cheap kit. And like I remember when I broke the snare head, I didn't even know that at the time that you could replace those. I just thought the snare was broken. And so I started playing. I took my floor tom and put newspaper on top of it so it wouldn't ring, and played that as my snare when I practiced at home. Like it was just bad. But eventually I got that kit, the Yamaha. I also have another old Pro up here too, the black kit that no one sees because we just keep this PDP right here, this X7. I don't think they sell X7s anymore. The PDPs.
PDP, they don't make any PDPs anymore.
Yeah, so I got.
No, that's not true. That's not true. They discontinued like the platinum line, and they discontinued a few lines. But I've seen some like special edition PDPs that have come out that actually look really dope at Guitar Center recently. Like the offset lug placement and like badge, and it's like it looks like a very high end kit. But and I like PDP.
But you know what though? That's what we learned coming up is you can make any of these kits sound great. I've seen Drum Coach Somadi. We play cover band gigs. Done a lot of those too. I literally saw him take a first act kit to a gig and make it sound good.
Oh yeah. I had a what was it called? I started out with a groove percussion kit, which actually was pretty horrible, and I don't know how to tune. So I mean, it sounded legitimately bad, and you would hit the snare and the lugs would pop off, like the welds were just too soft or something. It wasn't meant to take like any abuse. That was my first kit, you know. And then I had I'm trying to remember the brand, but it's like dime a dozen. Like CB makes them, First Act makes them, Gammon makes them. It's the standard like cheap ass poplar shells with the black wrap. You know, everything matches. You know, you got a 12, 13, 16. Yep. And I put some like EC2 clears on them, tuned them up good, made the snare crack, and it was just like, you can really make most drum sets sound good if you're using the right heads and you know how to tune and really know how to play. I mean, it's really how you play it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are trying to get, no offense to DW, but they're trying to get, you know, an $8,500 shell pack only.
Right.
Thinking that's gonna, you know, and then they're wondering why their drums sound like shit because they still never learned how to tune, which is
right. And that's one thing.
So many questions on that.
Eric Moore taught us that because I used to see him tune up anything and it would sound amazing. I'd be like, bro, what is that? And I remember he came to my grandmother's house one time downstairs in the basement and made my snare sound like I had a cheap like $100 snare and he made it sound amazing. And I was like, how do you do this? But people ask us that now when it comes to like our videos and stuff. They're like, yo, how do you get your drums to sound like that? I'm like, yo, there's even somebody who asked us that question. He had the same kit that we have in here. It's literally about the tuning. It's about how you play it. It's It's you.
It's like my kit sounds like shit, and I'm like, well, that's your fault. So you should fix that. But yeah, I actually had my buddy a couple days ago tune his toms over Zoom. And it was cool because I was in my car, so I could crank up the volume. So even though it was cell phone, I could still hear the pitch. And then we're using a keyboard app for the pitches. Yep. And the pitches always seem to be, for some reason, the low pitch on the floor tom resonant head, or the floor tom resonant head pitch is for some reason always like it's either a B or an E for like most people's drums. Yeah. So it's easy to do a 1-3-5 from there. Yeah. But it's just funny because like that isn't something that is taught very aggressively. You know, like you have cats that can play forwards and backwards and slant ways and sideways and everything like that, but they can't tune a drum to save their life. They don't even know where to start. They just know this is the heads I've always used. I just mess with it until it sounds good, something like that. Like I really wish there was more resources on tuning out there for.
Yeah, we definitely have a whole entire tuning course on the app.
You do on the Drumtrax app.
Yeah, there's
very nice.
Like, most people look at the app and they see the tracks. Like there's over 350 drum lessons and courses on the app, and so we go pretty extensive. And Drum Coach Somadi is the one that has really took a lot of time. And people be like, "How do you know what drum heads to play?" Well, that's because he's bought many different types of drum heads and literally put them all on this kit. Took them off and put them on this kit. Took them off and put it on I got the maple shells. I got the birch shells. I'm gonna put this on this snare and see how. Like you got to experiment. Everything is about experimentation. Someone asked me in the DM literally yesterday, how do I know what sticks to buy? And I'm like, yo, stick preference is highly personal.
Yeah.
Number one. And the way that you find that out is through experimenting with different stick types.
Yeah.
Because you buy a pair of sticks that you don't like doesn't mean that life is over. You can always get another pair of sticks. It's literally that simple. But of course, we're gonna end up doing a video probably that breaks down how you can go about what the stick feels typically do. But even when we do a video on that, and you watch how Drum Coach Damani or myself talk about how the stick feels in our hand and why we like it, doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. You have to do it. So at the end of the day, it is.
I get so annoyed because people will ask, like, I want a ride cymbal with a really good bell and a really good crash and a really good ping, and it looks cool, and I want it to be 23.65 inches and all this kind of thing. And I'm just like, okay, you have to go play this shit.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to know what heads are good, I mean, you can get some sort of, I mean, it's right here on the box. It'll say, like, exactly all the treatments, all the applications, everything. Like, the information there's a guide right here. Actually, this is what I'm talking about. Yep. Right there. Says what styles of music it's used for. Rock, gospel, that sort of thing. Okay, so there's a detailed description. So, like, all the instructions are there to give you, like, a starting point for your sound. But you still have to go and put it on and tune it right.
But then you get, all of that is true. But then you get to the creatives and you think of people like Thomas Pridgen, who took crash cymbals and put them together and made humongous hi-hats that became a thing. Yeah. Now a lot of people are doing it. So yes, you have to experiment and find your voice. Find out which time works. You may be a gospel drummer, but use the rock heads because they work for your sound, right? Yeah. Like, there are no rules to this. Just because it says that that's what the application is, you could use it for that. But you could use anything for anything you want. Yeah, based on unless you're, of course, again, disclaimer, if you're being hired and they want a very specific sound, then you are at that point doing a job like you would be if you were working at McDonald's. And I'm not saying that, like, any of that is bad. If you're working at McDonald's, you just follow the instructions. There's a system in place. If you're working at Apple, there's a thing that they want you to do. You have to do it. But if you are experimenting for your own sound and you're being creative and you're creating your own thing, which in my opinion is a thing that will separate you from everyone else, because if you are just a drummer or a musician in general who doesn't have their own sound, you're replaceable. That's like 90% of the musicians that I see playing on tour. I've seen really great musicians before get fired, not because they're not amazing. It's just because the music that they're playing, everybody can play that music, and you're amazing, phenomenal, amazing musician, but they don't need you to play that, and they don't have to pay you this rate to play. They can pay someone else cheaper who can just do this too. Yeah. And it gets weird. But anyway, my point is, if you experiment even with your drum heads and even with whatever you're using to find your sound to get what you want, that's just what my MO all the time. It's one of my values. Is like, be creative. Think about it. Yeah. And you may like that initial sound, and you may decide that you want to go in a different direction. Be open to that type of experimentation.
Exactly, yeah. And the tools that you use, like the drum heads, the drumsticks, the drums, your snare, your ride cymbal, whatever, should all be ways of complementing your own style and creativity and your sound.
You got it 100%.
And not copying. I feel like there's a lot of copying. I need this sort of setup. I need to set up my drums to look a certain way. Yep. I need to use these certain specific heads. That it's like that doesn't make you whatever drummer you're idolizing because you use 19 toms, and 40 cymbals with octobans up at the top. You're not Mike Mangini from Dream Theater. You'll never be Mike.
And at the end of the day, though, I look at it this way. I understand people copying because it's a part of the journey of finding yourself, right? We learn how to talk by listening to people talk who've been talking for a long time around us, and usually
like emulation. Yeah.
They start copying, so we gotta be careful what you say around children, right? Because they will copy what you say.
Yeah, they'll just repeat.
And at the end of the day, that works in the beginning to learn how to do something, to get a start. But eventually, as you continue to grow, the natural progression of things is for you to start to have your own perspective. You use the same language, you use the same words, but you do that to express your point of view. And that's where I feel like, sometimes drummers may get stuck that's one of the main questions we get in the private Facebook group, which is, I mean, I know how to play this drum fill, I know how to play that, but like, how do I unlock this creativity to where I can do this endless thing like I see Eric do? I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can go from having to play this drum fill this specific way because I learned it this way note for note versus having the freedom to explore. And so, you know, we go deep into that and stuff with the group, but to me, I carry that into all aspects. That's why it may seem like I'm saying the same thing, but in all areas of my life, I'm looking at being creative. And even the way that I'm living my life right now, I feel like I am designing it. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's not a path that I'm following because every other musician I know took a different path.
So you were talking about a part of the creative process. You were like, I don't want to be redundant, but as far as all these tools for your sound.
Right, and I live my life this way, right? And I feel like I'm designing my life. That's the approach that I have to it. And, you know, although things change, that's okay. It's a part of the experiments at times, right? You got to try stuff, figure things out.
Actually, that's a really good point. I want to say something on that because you have to take risks as well.
Absolutely.
Like I okay, yeah, I guess I have. I was like, damn it, I just called myself out. Like, I'm like, I don't really take that many risks. Like, my setup's pretty standard. Like, I don't. I did convert one of my 14-inch rack toms to a floor tom snare.
Okay.
So it was a floor tom
did you
first.
say a floor tom snare?
Yeah, it's like a duo.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
you put the snares underneath it.
Yeah, so I had somebody cut snare beds in the bottom head, put like a hazy, snare side head on. It's like a Remo Ambassador side head, and then the strainer and everything. So you just drill some more holes into it. But I was using a 1-up and 2-down setup for a while when I was playing with some bands in Arizona. But then I was like, I wanna try this. So it's a Birch Babinga kit. A lot of people might say, well, why would you mess up the tom was fine the way it is. It's designed, everything. I'm like, I mean, I want a floor tom snare. And now this thing's to my left, and I just can't imagine playing without it. I got my splat, I got my marching snare, I got my explosions in the side, post-rock sort of fills and stuff I can do. Yeah. And then I also moved my hi-hat from the left so I don't cross over anymore. It's in my rack tom position. Gotcha. I moved all my toms to the right. And actually,
does it make it easier for you to play? Does it feel more comfortable?
Oh, you have no idea, man. It has unlocked, and for reasons I won't go into, I'm kind of like on break from like playing right now. Okay. Just like a short break. I mean, just kind of like a transition thing. But ergonomically, like my medium tom is like right above my floor tom, so there's no space. Everything is very tight knit together. I don't have to cross over for any hi-hat pattern, so there isn't any. I mean, the cross unders and the subtleties and stuff like that are fine, but it's like ergonomically, if you don't have to cross over, why would you? So it's just cool to have it kind of set up. So what I'm saying is, I really feel like we should take risks, and I was gonna say we should be encouraged to take a risk. Or you don't even need encouragement; just take a risk. Put a clear head on your snare drum. Coach Damani does that. I did that for like 10 years because it sounds amazing. I mean, it sounds, on certain drum, it sounds better than a coated head. Some people will tell you can't use a coated head or you can't use a clear head on a snare. Some people will tell you can't stack the cymbals that way, or don't play your china that way, or don't use that pedal, or what is the guy that I'm thinking of? Stanley Moore. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have his name right? Stanley Moore.
Stanley Moore. Who did he play for?
He's independent.
Stanley Randolph.
Stanley Randolph, that's it. Yeah, Stanley Randolph. But he's got the bongos right in his middle position. So he's got like the SPDSX, he's got the bongos, and then he's got his high tom is like way over to the right. Yeah. But he just kills it every time. I mean, consistently. So I mean, like the setup is unorthodox, but he's getting different sounds, he's getting different orchestrations, things like that. So yeah.
There's another drummer that I don't. Like all the drummers know him and have an immense amount of respect for him, and it would be amazing if I could get him to do a course in the app one day. Chris Daddy Dave.
Yeah. With the
one of the most creatively gifted musicians that I've ever witnessed in my entire existence. To me, he was the beginning of seeing that creativity on the drums. Like I would watch him solo back in the day. Me and Drum Coach somebody would watch him play with Robert Glasper and do all the stuff that he was doing. and look at each other like, how are we supposed to explain this, or how do we even? What is this? How do you like? The way he would do his solos, and then, like I remember seeing him in videos play with the snare, and then he would have nothing but snares as toms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say some of those videos has got like 10 snare drums or something.
Yeah.
Or he's like standing up with 10 snares and he's just playing them.
What look like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And you know, all that stuff that he was doing was super influential to us in terms of the creativity of it. And I was just had so much admiration for his ability to really think out, because before he wasn't doing that. Like when he was out playing with Mint Condition and stuff like that, it was different vibe. Yeah. It was more quote unquote regular, right? In terms of like what drummers played with R&B music. But after that, and I started seeing him with Robert Glasper, I was like, yo, this is, and maybe he was doing it before and I just didn't know and didn't see. But when I did see it, this is back in like 2008, 2009 when I'm seeing this, right?
Yeah.
And that type of, but yeah, now a lot of people are doing a lot of creative stuff, and then watch even the style of drumming evolve. You know, from the gospel chop era to seeing the Mike Mitchells and the Mason Guidrys and the Andy Prados and like all of the how it's even there's creative drummers out there. There's another guy right now I've been seeing. I don't know why his name is slipping my mind. Breed X.
Oh, Breed X. Yeah. Yep.
What? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just crazy orchestrations.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
And so there's one and a one and a two and a two and a three and a three and a four and a four and a, and then there's that. You know
yeah, exactly. Like I feel like I'm on a different, like maybe I'm looking at the notes differently or something. I'm like I see a quarter note and you see a quarter note. This is a quarter note. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I guess
exactly.
Just like listen.
Exactly. Because you learn things a certain way when you play. You don't smush notes together. Do this. It needs to be like that. And then there's people who are like, nah, we this. Yeah. And I love that because it yes, that may not work on a pop gig, right? Because I feel like everybody gives advice based on what will get you hired for a pop gig, a cover band gig, a funk gig, or just to be able to get paid to play. And that makes sense. I get it. We all want to make money. But I think that when we talk about it without the context of that, saying, hey, this advice I'm giving you is for this. This works in this genre of music. Mm-hmm. But if you then go to a jazz gig and they play 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 on the snare and they don't move, it's going to be a problem. Like it's a whole other field. I think these things have to be talked about in context of the genre of music that's being played, and it has to be talked about in the context of whether or not someone's being hired to do this.
Yeah.
You're creating your own thing, right? Because I feel like drummers get left out as creatives. They get left out. They like the piano player, he writes, he's the creator. He's the bass player, these other melodic instruments, they are we have to just play this thing so that they can do their thing. We're not really
just a vehicle to the rest of the music,
Right. And my whole thing is like, no, the drummer is just as much a part of the band as every other instrument. And I feel like I can say that because I play other instruments and bands, and I'm a front man in my own band, and the drums is extremely important, right? And I'm not playing the drums in my own band as a front man, but the drums is extremely important. And if drum coach, somebody who plays in my band, is not giving me what I need, then it's a problem. So at the end of the day, I think that we're here to try to help have the conversation for musicians that are trying to be creative as well, and to say, hey, yes, you can play this, and that advice is 100% right for this in these situations.
Yes.
Don't forget, music is art. You're an artist.
Yeah.
Creative. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and back to the risk thing, like take risks in your studio.
Yeah.
When you're just practicing, things like that. But don't go up to like a
risk city, because it's like the place that you can fail and it's okay. I'm not saying go to a gig and take risks when you're being paid to play someone's show. I'm saying, but you should, to get to a point to where you're sure of something, when you're sure about an idea, you have to have tried it when you weren't sure about it.
Exactly. But on the flip side, don't show up to the jazz gig with like three 20-inch chinas and two kick drums and like
And you can leave your double bass pedal at home too.
Exactly.
For the jazz gig. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's context. It's context.
Yes.
It's what it is.
Yes.
You do different things in different situations. It is wrong to just randomly punch people in the face, for sure. It is. However, if you are, look who we got in the building right now. Drum coach somebody just stepped in. I'm on a podcast. So, you want to come on the camera? Oh, you don't want to come on the camera?
Is that the name he's going by today?
I don't know. What name is he going? What name are you going by today? Is it Batman? Is it Peter Parker? He doesn't want to be seen on camera right now. But at the end of the day, like I was saying, like you do different things in different situations. It's wrong to punch people in the face. But if someone is trying to hurt your child, you're probably going to punch them in the face, and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully the viewers aren't, or the listeners aren't like, oh, you mean take a risk? Like I hate my boss. I'm just going to punch my boss.
No, I'm not saying that. That's
going to make me a better drummer.
That's actually just stupid. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, that it is what it is. So.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you being on. We're gonna post the links in the description to where the viewers and listeners can go to download the app.
Yes, sir.
And then if there's any other links that you want me to put in the description to share, I will definitely do that so people can sign up. And I believe is there like a trial or something or like a 1 week period they can do?
I'll send you a link, man. They will, for those who click your link, we'll give them a 30-day trial to Drumtrax Premium, so they get access to everything for a month.
Excellent.
It includes all of the in-app features, the track downloads, offline streaming. It includes the private Facebook group. You go live and the whole nine, student reviews, all of that. Because our models also is it doesn't have to take a year to see growth in your drumming. You can see growth in 30 days, and we can help you do that. So,
absolutely, man. Well, thanks again for being on. Thanks everybody for listening. See you next time.
All right, family.